Welcome to a world where royal truths, hidden protocols, and European history come alive. This is your daily gateway into Princess Leonor's journey, the Spanish monarchy and royal dramas. In today's video we dive into an ever-blast, when Princess Leonor fell in love for the first time. Stay till the end for full details. Like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Before the world knew her as the future queen, before the crown shaped her every step, there was a single moment that changed everything. A moment whispered in silence, hidden from cameras, born from a feeling she never expected. The palace wakes early. Protocol hums like a quiet engine. Cameras wait. Expectations hover in the hallways like invisible portraits. Everyone assumes they know her story, her destiny, her path. But they don't. Because one morning, without warning, everything expected of her fractured. Because Princess Leonor fell in love for the very first time. No announcement, no permission, no royal plan, just a moment that changed everything. And here is the part no one saw coming. The love didn't arrive in a ballroom, or at a gala, or wrapped in royal silk. It arrived quietly, almost shyly, and it arrived in a way that challenged the monarchy more than any political storm. This is the story of that moment. A story that reshaped her heart, her family, and the future she was born to carry. The first time she felt it, she didn't even know it was love. She only knew the room shifted, just slightly, as if the air remembered something before she did. It happened at the Royal Military Academy, on a day that seemed ordinary. The kind of day nobody would write about. The kind of day destiny uses precisely because no one is paying attention. She noticed him before she admitted she noticed him. He wasn't royal. He wasn't polished. He wasn't a political choice or a dynastic calculation. He simply carried himself with a quiet steadiness that contrasted her world of scrutiny and expectation. He held a book under his arm, worn at the edges, and that single detail told her more about him than any formal introduction ever could. Their first exchange was brief. Almost too brief to matter. But human hearts take notes long before the mind admits it. He greeted her with a nod. She answered with an almost invisible smile. And somewhere beneath the surface of protocol, something warm began to grow. Uninvited, uncontrolled, unmistakable, Leonor tried to brush it away. She knew what love meant for someone like her. Love was never just love. It was duty, headlines, opinion polls, generational pressure wrapped in ceremonial gold. She could not afford distraction, and certainly not in the form of someone who lived outside the royal blueprint. Yet the feeling persisted. Days passed, then weeks, each interaction small but significant. Each glance a new puzzle piece. Each conversation a step closer to something she wasn't ready to name. He listened to her with an attentiveness she rarely received. Not to the title, not to the crown, not to the future queen. But to her, just her. And that was the danger. Because when a heart used to armor suddenly feels seen, it becomes vulnerable in the most beautiful and terrifying ways. The queen noticed first. Mothers always do. Leonor sat at dinner quieter than usual, her eyes softer, her smile caught in the middle of some unspoken thought. Queen Letizia studied her daughter the way only a mother could, reading the silent spaces between breaths. Later, when they were alone, the queen asked her directly, "Leonor, is there someone?" Leonor hesitated. The truth lived at the edge of her lips, but she wasn't ready to let it out. Not yet. Not while it was still delicate, still forming, still hers. "It's nothing," she said. But Queen Letizia heard the tremble beneath the words. And that tremble told her everything. Love, even royal love, has a way of echoing beyond the person who feels it. As Leonor's feelings deepened, the world around her tightened. Advisors whispered about responsibility. Journalists speculated. Palace aides observed her movements with renewed precision. And although no one knew the truth, the energy around her shifted. Curiosity always arrives before confirmation. Meanwhile, her heart carried its own storm. She found herself thinking of him during long ceremonies, during official briefings, during moments when the weight of the crown pressed too heavily against her shoulders. Love gave her refuge, but also fear. What if it wasn't real? What if it was too real? What if the palace pushed back? What if he walked away? Every new answer opened a deeper question. Every question tightened the emotional knot in her chest. Their first meaningful conversation happened under a drizzle of evening light. They were both exhausted from training, dust on their uniforms, sweat on their brows, and a trace of laughter in the air. He asked her what she feared most about becoming queen. She didn't expect the question. No one ever asked her that. People asked what she planned, what she believed, what she represented. Not what she feared. She answered honestly. "I'm afraid of losing myself," she said. He nodded, looking at her with a sincerity that felt like shelter. "You won't," he said. "Not if you stay human." That sentence stayed with her. It unfolded gently through her mind for weeks. It was the first time someone had reminded her she was allowed to be something other than a symbol. The emotional bond between them grew slowly, like dawn light stretching across a quiet landscape. Their friendship deepened into something unmistakably tender. Leonor still denied it to herself, but her heart was already convinced. The tension reached the palace before she did. King Felipe sensed it next. Not through words, but through the shift in her routines. The way she lingered and thought. The new tone in her voice. The patterns that had anchored her for years were suddenly changed by something intangible. He understood the risk. Royal love is never just an emotion, it is a political earthquake waiting for the wrong step. He knew the world would react. He knew the scrutiny would be merciless. He knew his daughter's heart could be both her strength and her vulnerability. When he finally asked her, his voice carried the weight of both a king and a father. "Leonor, is there something you want to tell me?" And she realized the truth could no longer stay hidden. She confessed everything, the small moments, the unexpected connection, the quiet warmth, the fear she tried to bury. King Felipe listened without interrupting. Every word stripped away the shield she had carried all her life. When she finished, she braced herself for disappointment. But instead, he breathed deeply and said something she would never forget. "You were my daughter before you were my successor. And even future queens are allowed a first love." His acceptance didn't erase the complications. But it gave her courage. With that courage came a new question: what now? Love had bloomed, but would it survive the crown? Could a relationship born in quiet moments withstand the noise of the world? Could her heart and her duty coexist, or would one have to break? She returned to him with her truth. No titles, no expectations, no palace walls, just honesty. "I don't know where this leads," she said, "but I want to find out." "If you do," he answered, not with a grand declaration, but with the kind of sincerity that reshapes destinies. "I'm here. Whatever this becomes, I'm here." That was the moment. The unplanned, unstoppable, unforgettable moment when Princess Leonor fell in love for the very first time. Not because it was perfect. Not because it was easy. But because it was real. Love does not ask permission. It arrives. It transforms. It tests every corner of a life built on duty. For Leonor, it opened a new chapter. A chapter filled with hope, complexity, pressure, warmth, and the fragile courage that comes with first love. A chapter that left her wondering where emotion meets legacy, and how a young woman destined for the throne learns to balance the weight of a crown with the voice of her own heart. And that balance would shape everything that came after. Because a future queen can be trained. A leader can be prepared. But a heart falling in love for the very first time writes its own unpredictable story. And hers had just begun.